Guessing in CTF challenges is the worst, and I don't like guessing in professional work such as bug bounty or penetration testing either. Having to guess anything is so frustrating. So in this video, I want to explore the differences between guessing and simply not knowing something, all in the context of IT security or hacking. And hopefully it helps to improve CTF challenges in the future, but I also hope it helps you to better focus on the topics that make sense to spend time on to improve your skills and what stuff you should mostly ignore. The worst category in competitions for me is Steganography. Steganography is the practice of concealing a file, message, image or video within another file. Often you just get an image without any context and they ask you to find the flag. What am I supposed to do? It could be anything. The options are kinda endless. In a very typical basic Steganography challenge, a message could simply be hidden with the tool StegHide. So to solve it, you have to either know from reading other CTF write-ups that this is a common thing, or you just have to guess and search around and get lucky that you discover this tool. Knowing StegHide and being able to solve such a challenge is, in my opinion, useless and a bit waste of a time for everybody involved, for the player, but also the author who created it, because it doesn't really have much educational value. I will offer a solution for this problem, because I do think there is a way to make Steganography challenges a ton of fun. But first, let's explore a different example. In some CTF challenges, or actually more common in real-world bug bounty work, you need to do recon or asset discovery. That's when you do a ton of scanning to find hidden URL paths, open ports and weird subdomains. And of course, this is literally just brute force and automating, trying out thousands and thousands of different options. And so there are CTF challenges where you just have to run some Dirbuster with a word list that happens to have the word you need. I find this boring and a waste of time. It's good to do once, then you know the tools, but on an educational level, it doesn't add to your skill. If there's hidden stuff, if you can guess it, then you guessed it. That's all there is to it. Anyway, next example. Look at this CTF challenge. How can you cause XSS on this site? If you watched my recent CTF write-up videos, you might be able to solve it. Feel free to pause, otherwise I will just continue and tell you how to trigger an alert. To get an XSS here, you need to start on your own site, and that website has to set window.name to a XSS payload, such as an image tag with on error. When you then redirect to this XSS challenge, it will trigger the alert box. There are two important things you have to know to understand why this works. First of all, variables scoped like this in JavaScript are part of the window object. Try it. Open a console and type in ASD, assign a value, and then look at it with window.asd. So ASD and window.asd are the same variable, which means if you understand that in JavaScript variables and functions are part of the window object, then you also understand that name is the same as window.name. Alright, the second thing you need to understand is that window.name is special. The window name property gets or sets the name of the Window's browsing context. And the browsing context is more than just the current website. It's the window or the tab you have. So the window name persists across websites. Setting window.name on your own site will persist when you then redirect to the XSS challenge. And there, document.write will take the window name that you set and write it into the page. And if there's an XSS payload, it will trigger. So does this feel like guessing to you? Do you have to do some crazy guessing to solve this? I think for a lot of people who just get started, this can feel like guessing. It's magical, like, how do you come up with this? But it's actually the complete opposite. In contrast to the Steganography challenge or brute force, here you actually have to know, understand and combine two distinct web technology behaviors. Let me walk you through how somebody who just started with web security could solve this challenge. So, you want to get into web security and you read that many websites use JavaScript, which means you start to learn JavaScript with some random tutorial that is out there. It really doesn't matter which one. Don't think you have to pay for one. Because most tutorials will probably tell you about global variables being part of the window object. Here, the kinda shitty W3 school site. Global variables are properties of the window object. Or here, a random tutorial I pulled up from javascript.info. In a browser, global functions and variables declared with var become the property of the global object. Here is an example, var gvar equal to 5, alert window.gvar, showing you that gvar and window.gvar are the same. Now, this is all you need to know for my XSS challenge, because when you carefully read the code, you would see that you have to control name or window.name in order to trigger XSS here. There is no other option. You must control it. So you wonder, is there anything you could do to control it? Well, you search window.name with Google. You read a couple of results and you learn about that window.name is special. Each tab contains its own window object, which is why even when you navigate to or from different pages, the window object is persistent. Whereas if you check on a different tab, the window name will be different. Now you know that you can control the window name from your own website. You can set it to XSS payload and then open the challenge site. Solved. And in this whole process, you learn more about JavaScript and about special browser behaviors like window.name. You increased your knowledge. But even if you don't solve this challenge and you get frustrated, if you later read a write-up about it or right now watch this video, you will still have learned something. You actually just learned a bit more about JavaScript and the browser and web security in general. Congratulations, it's that easy. Now you could go out there and look for websites where JavaScript uses the global variable window.name and see if it does so in an insecure way. Of course, it's probably rare to find that, but that's IT security. Alone by itself, this knowledge about window.name feels like a bit useless knowledge, but if you learn a ton of these obscure things, you get a whole repertoire of tricks to pull from when looking for bugs. And the more you know, the better work as a security professional you will do. In practice, you still need creativity and good ideas to apply these things, but yeah, you are on the right path. You got a step forward, may it be for bug bounty, penetration testing, or even being a web developer who wants to write more secure web applications. This was time well spent. This was the opposite of just guessing. Now, I don't want to disregard scanning, guessing, or brute forcing completely. It obviously is a tool in your toolbox you need to use. For example, I think it's interesting that some websites deploy with Git and have the .git folder accessible, which you can use to leak the whole repository. And yes, you have to scan or brute force for that. But at the end of the day, the general scanning and asset discovery is just simple. It's brute force. It's literally just guessing the correct name of something. So for me, I don't learn much from that. It doesn't add to my understanding of different technologies. It's logical that there is hidden stuff and it can be discovered by just guessing. So I really don't like spending time on that. And that's also the reason why I don't really like bug bounty or even black box web pen testing. I just don't want to waste my time or burn the client's money on brute forcing API endpoints, especially when it could just take 5 minutes with the source code to find them all. Imagine you scan a website for days if you could just look at the source code instead for 5 minutes. So annoying. I'm telling you this because when you start getting into hacking, I see a lot of tutorials that simply are about using some tools to scan some stuff. It's great to play around with the web scanning tools or hash cracking or Wi-Fi password cracking. It's an important tool in your toolbox. As a professional, you should know that stuff. But don't stop there. This stuff can quickly be understood, and then you should move on to learning more small tricks and techniques and accumulate more knowledge. Don't waste too much valuable time on these tools. Play CTF instead. Now, before I end, I promise that there's a way to make steganography challenges more fun. And it's a bit of a cop-out. My solution is to actually not make it a steganography challenge, but another challenge. For example, some people say steganography is important because malware might use it to hide data, for example inside images, when stealing the data, or hide remote control commands in plain sight. So yeah, it could be great to learn more about steganography, but make it a malware reversing challenge instead. Write a small program that acts like malware that uses some steganography technique to hide data, and your job is to recover the data from an example file. Now you don't have to guess anything. You need to reverse engineer the challenge malware in order to find out how it's hidden, and then implement the reverse to recover the hidden file. This is useful. This teaches you about reversing and understanding some file formats. Another way is to, for example, have a web app where an upload requires an image file, But there's another endpoint that opens and displays zip files. Your goal is it to get a malicious zip file onto the server. Well, now steganography or something kind of related, polyglots, come into play. You need to craft a file that is an image but also hides a valid zip file within it. Now you learn so much about interesting web security vulnerabilities and what it means to really have a file of a certain format. To summarize, when you learn about IT security and hacking, try to identify what topics really teach you new concepts, new techniques and new tricks so you can accumulate more knowledge, rather than doing the same stuff over and over again. And a lot of scanning tools or cracking tools are essentially the same concept. So learning different tools is not necessarily learning anything new. And that's why I find a lot of bug bounty and black box pen testing work super boring and repetitive. And that's why I like CTFs, because I can choose the challenges that sound like they teach me something new. Something to add to my bag of tricks and develop an intuition and the creativity necessary for finding my own bugs. I hope this video wasn't too much ranting, but I hope you'll get something out of it.